Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. Hey readers, I am back with another episode where I am looking ahead to all of the new romance book releases for the coming year. But today, I am going to highlight some of my most anticipated new romantasy books that will drop in 2025. In my last episode, I talked about my top 10 or so new romance books of 2025 from my list of 25, but readers have become obsessed with romantasy books as of late. The romance books that blend romance and fantasy to make one delicious category of romance books. And we have so many new romantasy releases coming in 2025 already, and there are only going to be more to come. So I had to just create my own list that focused purely on romantasy and, of course, create this episode to talk about them as well. But like my other list, I put together a list of my top 25 new romantasy books of the year, which you can see on shereadsromancebooks.com. And I'll include a link in the show notes for that. But today I'm going to highlight about 10 of them. Again, ones that I just really cannot wait. Otherwise, if I talked about all 25, we would be here all day. And while that would be awesome, I'm mindful of your time. But many of these, or I should say of this year's new romantasy books, are from well-known romantasy authors and are a continuation of series that have already started. But it's also exciting to see that a few authors known for their contemporary work are jumping into the world of romantasy, and I'm sure that they have Rebecca Yarros to thank for showing them the way and that it can be done, right, with her huge success with the Fourth Wing series. So get ready, romantasy fans, because 2025 is going to be a big year for new romantasy books to sink your teeth into, and I am so for it. Of course, I'll remind you to continually check my upcoming releases page on shereadsromancebooks.com to stay on top of all of the latest new romantasy releases, and of course, to sign up for my newsletter, because that's where I highlight new releases every week and my favorites each month. Okay, are you ready? Let's chat about the most anticipated new romantasy books that I cannot wait to read in 2025, starting with, you guessed it, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, which releases January 21st. This release is so big that I also included it on my list of most anticipated new romance books of 2025 and mentioned it in my last episode, but it's worth mentioning it again, is it not? I mean, I know I'm not the only romance fan, and honestly, non-romance fan, to fall in love with the Fourth Wing series and have become obsessed with Violet and Xaden. This is book 3 in the series, and Iron Flame book 2, as we all know, left us hanging on a cliffhanger with some new developments that I need answers to, like stat. I'm dying to know what's in store for Xaden and how we left him, right? I want to know more about Violet's dragons and, of course, how Violet's going to step up once again and save the day, because that's what she does. I'm sure this romantasy is going to be a really thick one, right? And propel the story forward, despite the series still having 2 more books to go. But January 21st cannot come fast enough. I'm so excited. I love the cover. It's going to be a huge release, and I can't wait to read it. But the next new romantasy book of 2025 that I am dying for, and yes, dying to read it. I think I've been dying to read it for years, honestly, probably when I first began this series. And that is The Primal of Blood and Bone by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This will release on June 10th. This is the last book, oh my gosh, can you believe it? The last book of her From Blood and Ash series, if you can believe it, which I can't. It makes me so sad because I just don't want to leave Poppy and Castile. This series Gosh, this series made me a fantasy romance fan. I have loved it so much, as well as the spin-off Flesh and Fire series. If you read the last book in the series, A Soul of Ash and Blood, which sort of rehashed from the first book, From Blood and Ash, but from Castile's point of view, you were also reminded of where we left Poppy after the War of Two Queens, right? We're hoping that she wakes up and remembers Castile and Kieran, but I have no idea where Armentrout is going to take it from there, honestly. Plus, I really want more of Poppy's sister and Castile's brother. So much to unpack still in this story. And unfortunately, I have to wait until June, but I cannot wait to read this and that we actually get the finale. It's going to be awesome. Definitely one of my most anticipated books of all of 2025. All right, the next few books I'm going to talk about are even more new Romantasy releases for 2025 that continue a series, but then I'll add with a few Romantasy books that either are new or maybe are starting off a new series. So the next Romantasy on my TBR list for 2025 is Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. It releases on February 18th. It continues her Crimson Moth series, which started with Heartless Hunter that I read this year and loved. I won't give spoilers about Heartless Hunter, which left us with Rune on the run and Gideon feeling betrayed. He knows that she's a witch, but now she's supposedly aligned with a really dangerous witch that has history with Gideon. So I'm really excited to see what this psycho is going to do and how Gideon and Rune are going to manage their feelings for one another. Super excited to continue with this Romantasy series in February, and you will be too if you like books about witches. All right, the next book is a Romantasy, unlike any of the others, but I had to include it because I loved the first book in the series, and this Romantasy is called Go Luck Yourself by Sarah Roche, if I'm saying her last name correctly. It releases on March 11th and will be the perfect book to read around St. Patrick's Day because it's about the Crown Prince of St. Patrick's Day. So this book follows The Nightmare Before Christmas, which was such a fun fantasy about the Prince of Christmas and the Prince of Halloween falling for each other, and included the Princess of Easter. And Sarah continues that story with more holiday princes. It's such a fun premise, and her writing is so fabulous. It was the first book I read by her, and now I'm like completely hooked. So I cannot wait for this new fantasy queer romance. So if you want something a bit different this year, here is what it's about. Someone has been stealing Christmas's joy, and there's only one clue to the culprit: a single shamrock. With Cole busy reconstructing Christmas and their dad now having a full midlife crisis in the Caribbean, Chris volunteers to investigate St. Patrick's Day. His cover, an ambassador from Christmas to foster goodwill. What could go wrong? Everything, it seems. Because Prince Lachlan Patrick, Crown Prince of St. Patrick's Day, happens to be the mysterious student that Chris has been in a small war with at Cambridge. They attempt to play nice for the tabloids, but Chris can't get through one conversation without wanting to smash Locke's face in. He's infuriating, stubborn, loud, obstinate, hot. Wait, hot? Chris might be in some trouble, especially when it turns out that the mystery behind Christmas's stolen magic isn't as simple as an outright theft. But why would a holiday that Christmas has never had contact with, one that's always been the very basis of carefree, want to steal joy? Can a spare prince even hope to unravel all this? Or will Chris lose something way more valuable than his holiday resources, like his heart? Now, I'll be honest and say you might want to read The Nightmare Before Christmas before this one, just so you understand Chris's past, especially about a crush that he's had, which is probably going to impact his love story in this one, but it's so worth it. It's so, so good. I just love how super cute it is in the holiday focus, which is very different from like a dark romantasy or just about magic or fairies and all that stuff. So definitely give this one a try this March. All right. The next new Romantasy book I'm looking forward to reading is Sweet Obsession by Katie Robert, which releases on April 1st. This is book 8 in her Neon God series and is Poseidon and Icarus' story. And here is what it's about. Icarus may not have flown particularly close to the sun, but he has fallen right into the rough hands of Olympus's own Poseidon. Being held captive by the gentle giant wouldn't be so bad if Olympus wasn't on the eve of destruction, or if Poseidon stopped looking at him with those irresistibly stormy eyes. Poseidon doesn't have time to babysit his increasingly bratty prisoner, but he has no choice. Olympus is officially at war, and someone has to keep their best bargaining chip out of harm's way. The thing is, the longer Poseidon is with Icarus, the more he starts to care for his sworn enemy, and the more he realizes that Icarus isn't the villain he's been made out to be. There's a warmth to him, a vulnerability that Poseidon finds difficult to ignore or deny. Now, with Circe and Aeneas at the gate in Olympus, a hair's breadth away from falling, Poseidon will have to make a difficult choice about himself, about his allegiances, and about the man who woke his heart from its long slumber, only to threaten to break it for good. Now, this new Romantasy release is a good excuse to get caught up on the series if you need to. I'm about a book behind, so I'll be catching up because I just love how Katie Robert has used Greek mythology characters in these stories that are just oh so steamy. But I would say too, like, they're very fantasy light in a way. They almost feel like contemporary fantasy romance books. So I was debating whether including it for that reason, but it's such an awesome series and I can't wait to read this book. But in addition to Sweet Obsession, I have to say that I'm also really, really, really looking forward to book 9 in the series, which she said is probably going to release in late 2025. It's not actually the last book in the series. That is going to be called Shattered Gods, book 10, which will release in 2026. But book 9 is Zeus and Hera's story, and I have needed their story more than anything since the series began. So you better believe that I will be reading Tender Cruelty when it drops in December, or another most anticipated romantasy books in 2025 for sure. All right. Next up on my romantasy TBR list for 2025 is A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle Jensen, which releases May 13th. This is book 2 in her Saga of the Unfated series that started with A Fate Inked in Blood. I loved that book, which released earlier this year because I hadn't read a romantasy steeped in Nordic mythology. I am now obsessed with Bjorn, the hero of the story. But the first book left us on an oh my God, what kind of moment. And so I'm really curious where it's going to leave the shield maiden Freya. And here is what it's about to give you a taste. The secret of her divine heritage revealed, Freya finds herself on a path that will see thousands of lives lost to the magic in her blood. Desperate to avoid this dark fate, she risks an alliance with Skaland's greatest enemy to seek answers from the seer who foretold her future, the same seer who sent Bjorn to kill her. While Freya still seethes with rage over Bjorn's betrayal, the blood oaths that bind her demand that she keep him close as she hunts for a way to avert the looming war. Her magic draws her to the front lines of an old enmity, embroiling her with Norland's unfated, children of the gods who serve the king she was raised to fear. The same king who, unlike Bjorn, is now willing to fight at her back. For despite the desire that burns hot between Bjorn and Freya, his growing distrust of her chosen path threatens to drag them further apart. As war approaches, gods and mortals must choose their weapons, yet the fiercest battle will be the one Freya wages within herself. With the magic of two goddesses burning in her veins, she must weave the threads of destiny to decide her own fate. Will she be the shield that protects her people or the curse that destroys them? This book has some really compelling characters, and as I said, I just love Bjorn and his chemistry with Freya. So I have a feeling that this is going to be a really, really great romantasy to read in 2025. So be sure to check it out. The next new romantasy that I'm looking forward to, as it's a reminder to catch up on this series is Beneath the Burning Sea by Amanda Boucher. And this book releases on May 27th. It is book 5 in her Kingmaker Chronicles series, which starts with one of the best fantasy romance books I have ever read. I loved A Promise of Fire and how she weaves in the Greek gods of the story, but I did not continue with it. So, again, this is my prompt to go back to it, knowing that it's continuing because the last book in the series was released in 2022. I realized, so I just need to, I think, dedicate a week to binge read them all before this one releases in May. But if you've already read the series, then here's what you have in store for Beneath the Burning Seas. Separated from everyone they know and love, sworn warriors and warring allies, Belanca and Carver are on a gods given mission. Travel to the famed realm of Atlantis, fight through every danger that awaits them, and find the shard of Olympus in order to end Atlantis' generations long magical punishment, all in Zeus's name. Zeus needs an army if he has any hope of stopping Olympus's bloody coup. In headstrong fire, Belanca knows it's her duty to deliver one no matter the cost, to herself, to her own growing magic, or to the man she's come to desire with all the flames in her heart. He left everything behind in order to guard her back as she faces down her destiny, and Carver swears that together they can overcome any obstacle. But finding the shard is no easy task, and it's not long before Belanca and Carver are dragged into the center of a deadly game of gods, one not even their combined hearts may be strong enough to survive. So if you're looking for another Romantasy series to sink your teeth into, consider the Kingmaker Chronicles. I don't even think this has a book cover yet, but I didn't really care. It's definitely on my most anticipated romance books list because it is such a great series and by such a great writer. So I cannot wait to pick this one up. Now, another Romantasy series that has its second book releasing in 2025 is The Eye of the Goddess with A Vow of Embers by Soraya Wilson. This one will release on July 8th. The first book just recently released, A Tribute of Fire, which I really enjoyed for its strong heroine and how it pulled in elements kind of similar to The Hunger Games to start it off. The ending kind of leaves you with another oh my God moment that will have you clamoring for this book too, which is why A Vow of Embers is on this list. And here is what it's about. Leah is always prepared for battle, but being blackmailed into marriage by Prince Alexandros is a challenge too far. She has no choice. He's holding her sister hostage to force her hand. But with this union built on betrayal and rage comes a contract. By the goddess's law, the marriage must not be consummated. A relief to Leah. She'd rather commit regicide than fall into bed with the man she loathes. There's one other saving grace. Marriage gives Leah access to the palace and a chance to uncover the truth about the treasured eye of the goddess and the magic it holds. But something inexplicable and impossible to ignore soon binds Leah and the prince. By night, they walk in each other's dreams, and by day, they share each other's pain. As longing and trust grow between Leah and Alexandros, inhibited desires are set free. Outside forces rise against them, posing an ever-present danger, not only to the throne, but to their very lives. I can't really say more about this book or the previous one without giving some big spoilers, but I'm really excited to learn more about the prince and how he and Leah manage their feelings. I've loved their dream sort of sequences or scenes so far. They're really, really awesome. So I'm hoping there's even more to them in this second book. It's going to be really, really good. Okay. And another series that has book 2 releasing in 2025 is the Crucible series by Abigail Owen. Now, this book doesn't even have a title. It doesn't have a book cover. It doesn't have a summary. Yet, it's already on my list of most anticipated new Romantasy books for 2025 because I devoured the games Gods Play this year. It was so good, and I just need more of the story and more of these characters. There is definitely a reason it was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award for Best Romantasy of 2024. I think I said it in my review that this book hooks you from, honestly, the very first page, the very first sentence, and it really doesn't let go until the end. And I loved that it's honestly a complete story. Like you could just read this one and be done, but yet it ends with something that will compel you, honestly, to want to read this book too in 2025. I absolutely need more of Hades and more Lyra, so look out for the Crucible series book 2, which I think is set to release on July 22nd. So at least we have a release date, if nothing else. I will update the title and the cover and the summary when it drops, so make sure you're following me for that info. But just keep it in mind because it's going to be awesome. All right. My next two most anticipated new Romantasy books of 2025 are not follow ups to existing series. They may be standalones, I'm not really sure, or they may be kicking off a brand new series. But let's be honest, rarely, because rarely are Romantasy books standalones, right? But I'm super excited for both of these books, and I think you should be too. The first new Romantasy on my list is Firebird by Juliet Cross, releasing on April 8th. Now, Juliet is known for her paranormal romance books filled with witches, vampires, werewolves, demons. I mean, you name it. But this Romantasy sounds amazing for different reasons. And here is what it's about. Oh, and I should say because it involves dragons. From the moment Roman general and nephew to the emperor Julianus Zacchia laid eyes on Melina, he was enthralled by the Dacian dancer. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not really sure. Years later, the fierce beauty stands before him on a scarred battlefield, her life in danger. He instinctively shifts into his fierce dragon form to save her, an action that may mean his head on the imperial gate. But he and his dragon know one thing: she belongs to them. Melina can't believe that the centurion who had once bestowed a secret talisman on her is the Roman general of legendary brutality. His prowess as a warrior cannot be denied, yet they don't reveal the secret he hides. All Melina knows is his protection and gentle touch, and she cannot deny how her soul has always seemed to answer his. As they navigate a world where flying death riders conquer and burn, their love will ignite a firestorm that can only end in heartbreak or death, or both. Okay, gosh, wow. This book sounds amazing, and I am actually going to dive into my advanced reader copy very soon because I just can't wait for it to read this story. I mean, it has dragon shifters, people, and an alpha hero. I know I'm going to be like all gaga over. The cover is breathtaking, and I know that it's going to be so wonderful. So stay tuned for my review on this because I'm diving in soon. I'm just so excited. And last but not least is a romantasy that I think is going to be huge in 2025, and that is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto, which will release on July 8th. Now, I've been obsessed with Julie's two contemporary romance books, so I honestly will read anything she's writing. Well, maybe not the thriller that she has coming out soon, but if it's a romance, you get my gist. First of all, you need to see this cover. I am obsessed with the purple color. It's so beautiful and gorgeous. But here is what her first romantasy is about. The war is over, the dark forces have won, and the hero who was supposed to save them is dead. Captured as her castle is overrun by the enemy, Briony Rosewood knows that the world as she knows it is changed forever. The dark forces have won, and her people face imminent servitude, imprisonment, or death. Stripped of her magic and her freedom, Briony and the other survivors are quickly sold off to the highest bidders in an auction, and as Evermore's princess, she fetches the highest price. After a fierce bidding war, she's sold to none other than Tovin Hurst, scion of a family known for their cruelty. Yet despite the horrors of her new world and the role she must learn to play within it, all is not lost. Help and hope may yet arise in the most unlikely of places. So this has all the makings of a great romantasy, right? I mean, the strong heroine to lead and save her kingdom, a possible evil hero who may surprise us, and evil lurking everywhere. I'm so excited to see what Julie brings to this category of romance, but I have faith that it's going to be fantastic. So I cannot wait to read this one next year. And so, gosh, that's it. Is it 2025 yet? Because I seriously need all of these books. If you're excited about them like I am, Your TBR list is at least 10, maybe 11 books deeper now. But if you check out my list of all 25 new Romantasy books for 2025, then it's going to be even bigger, but so worth it. If you have not yet dipped your feet into the Romantasy category of romance, then make 2025 your year to investigate it and give it a try. But do you have a specific new Romantasy that you're most looking forward to reading next year? Drop me a comment, send an email, or drop a line in my private Facebook group, the She Reads Romance Books Reader Lounge. I definitely want to hear it. And in case you missed it, I just announced the 2025 Romance Book Reading Challenge, where we read one romance book a month. You can check it out on shereadsromancebooks.com to see all the categories of romance that we are going to be reading in 2025, of which fantasy is one of them. So if nothing else, maybe pick one of these books to read in May of 2025, as that is the month of the challenge where we read fantasy. If you're interested in the entire challenge, be sure to sign up for it on shereadsromancebooks.com or with the link below, and you'll get my free printable, which outlines all the categories by month and helps you track your selections. It's going to be a really great, fun challenge, and I really hope that you will join me with it. And that wraps up this episode. So stay tuned, because my next episode is going to talk about romance books being made into movies and TV series in 2025. So you don't want to miss that. I'm already looking forward to the new year. So it's going to be really exciting. Thanks so much for tuning in. And of course, until next time, happy reading, because life is better with a love story. That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a book boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.